Mealtime is more than a bowl of food. It's the foundation for a long and healthy life. At Wellness, dry recipes are crafted with the highest quality natural ingredients for a taste that pets love, and scientifically proven through AFCO feeding trials to ensure that every complete and balanced meal supports the 5 signs of well-being. With Wellness Pet Foods, pet parents can share a life of well-being together with their pet.
This is Veterinary Vertex, a podcast of the AVMA journals. In this episode, we chat about how an ultrasound-guided celiac plexus block increases intestinal motility in normal horses with our guests, Barbara Delvescovo and Marta Cercone.
Welcome to Veterinary Vertex. I'm Editor-in-Chief Lisa Fourier, and I'm joined by Associate Editor Sarah Wright. Today, we have my very good friends and colleagues from Cornell University joining us. Barbara and Marta, thank you so much for taking that time out of your busy schedules to be with us here today.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you all.
All right, let's try on over. So Marta, your AJBR article discusses how an ultrasound-guided celiac plexus block increases intestinal motility in normal horses. Please share with our listeners the background on this article.
Yes. So a few years ago, I was watching a roundtable about colleagues from one of the Congress of Equine practitioner in Italy. And I heard one of the participants talking about this approach that they were trying and referring to an ongoing clinical trial that they were doing in collaboration with the University of Milan. So I got interested in the topic because I'm interested in neuromodulation mostly. And so I started studying more into it and figuring out, based on their initial work, if we could try to identify really how things would respond to this anesthetic block, starting from normal horses, and maybe try to design an ultrasound-guided approach to it.
Very cool. And have you heard of our technical tutorial videos by chance?
Yes. Thinking about it. Yeah.
Awesome. And for our listeners who don't know, these are video articles. They're peer-reviewed and they're fully citable. So they receive a DOI recognized by the Deans of Scholarly Outputs. So very cool. We'll look forward to maybe some content then from you in the future for that article category. So Barbara, what are the important take-home messages from this AJVR article?
Yeah, I think, as Marta said, this could be a new technique and a technique applicable to post-operative ileus, which is such a challenging condition to treat and is usually treated with a multimodal approach. And so I think this new technique could be implemented in this multimodal treatment for post-op ileus, and I think this could be really exciting. And I think also this being a ultrasound-guided technique, this for the practitioner would require some basic skills with ultrasounded guided injections and knowledge of the anatomy and targeted points, but is also something that is very applicable to our horse population. So I think these are the main take-home messages for the equine practitioner.
Marta, you've been interested in neuromodulation and ultrasound-guided techniques for a long time, but that's a pretty broad category. More specifically, what sparked your interest in this regional type of local regional anesthesia?
So it was the fact in humans there is a lot about vagal stimulation to treat several different conditions, and the things that fascinate me is how much the brain and anyway in the nervous system can affect in general all the other body systems. It's so fascinating. And then I've been working on electrical stimulation for some neurologic disease or peripheral neuropathy, like for a head shaking or recurrent laryngeal neuropathy in the horse. And so it really pushed me into finding out more. So what really happens if we block that plexus? That's why we got more interested in identifying exactly what happened, even just in normal horses, and then try to progress later on in other investigations. So I'm I have a lot of questions, and I try to work on finding the answers, even if most of the time there are only more questions showing up more than the answer. But it's a nice process.
It's just important to be curious, but you guys are obviously a great team in being finishers and getting this work done and across the publication line, which is not easy. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Barbara, earlier, Sarah asked you what were some of the take-home messages, but as Marta just said, every time you do a study, more questions, something surprises you. For you, what were some of the most surprising findings from this article?
Yeah, good question. I think one of the most surprising fact, looking at the results of this study, was knowing that the motility increased even beyond baseline. And so in these healthy sedated horses, right, we had the baseline motility assessment. And then when in some of them, in a group of them, we did the block, the motility actually went beyond baseline. And so we were expecting or hoping for some effect on the GI motility. But when we saw the actual results, we were very pleased and we were really surprised by that.
A follow-on thing that listeners might be wondering, does that make them crampy?
And not in this case. So in this healthy, sedated population, they were not crampy. No.
Very cool.
Yeah, in fact, we couldn't see much happening on these horses until we really went and evaluated the ultrasound video blindly. So that was rewarding also for anyway, we didn't know what to we had some idea, but it was nice to have confirmation from a more objective data and not just our impression.
So Marta, what are the next steps for research in this topic?
So we already completed a follow-up experiment where we evaluated how the celiac plexus block affect intestinal motility, pain, and also an inflammatory response in horses in which we induced endotoxemia by injecting LPS. So that was our second research experiment, and at the same time we've been conducting also a clinical trial here at Cornell on cases that are admitted for colic, and trying to evaluate also beyond the postoperative ileus if we can provide more anesthetic relief in horses, for example, going through standing laparotomy.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing. And for our listeners who are not watching the video, Lisa has a very cute puppy joining us this morning on the podcast. Aw. And then, so artificial intelligence is a really hot topic in veterinary medicine. There's even symposiums about it now. We have our very own artificial intelligence supplemental issue coming out in HAVR very soon. So Barbara, do you see a role for AI in this area of research?
Yeah, for sure. One of the most challenging, one of the highest challenges of this study was to try to objectively evaluate motility, GI motility. And so what we did, we tried to do the most objective possible evaluation, blinding the videos and randomizing them and then retrospectively evaluating them and scoring them. And I think this could be something that would be very well done by an AI algorithm, and that could really provide, more objectivity to these sort of similar evaluations as well. And evaluating videos for GI motility is definitely one of them. So if we had that possibility, that could have definitely been implemented in this study, for example.
Well, Serena, we're accumulating these questions. You guys know Cornell is hosting the second Savvy artificial intelligence in veterinary medicine. And, there's a lot of collaboration that can be had between people who really know AI and folks like us who know clinics. So we're accumulating these questions and going to provide them to those that are really on the extreme side of AI who don't know what the clinical questions might be.
Yeah, so stay tuned. Maybe we'll have to do a podcast episode on the take-homes from that. We'll see. For those of you just joining us, we're discussing how an ultrasound-guided celiac plexus block increases intestinal motility in normal horses with our guests, Barbara and Marta.
And cinnamon.
Can't forget cinnamon.
Marta, both you and Barbara, coming from Italy, have fascinating backgrounds and very diverse training. But how did your training prepare you to write this article?
Well, in a way, working for my PhD on ultrasonography definitely paved the way for just keeping on doing that type of work. And then I've been so lucky to have great mentors, starting from Italy with Dr. Pepe and for my PhD, and then coming in Cornell, Dr. Ducharme, and then of course Julito in the most recent years. So I've been very fortunate. So I've been pushed through all my possible limitation when trying to do research or clinical work, and yeah, I own my mentors, all of this.
Barbara, how about you? Like, none of these paths are linear, so I think it's really cool to tell listeners, especially junior listeners, that it wasn't for any of us. It wasn't a straightforward path.
No, definitely not a straightforward path. So I owe a lot to people who have inspired me and trained me as well. I had more a clinical practice type of background and, trying to see the challenges in clinical practice. And then once I got to Cornell, approach more the research world and try to answer some of the questions that came up alongside my short career, but mainly clinical, was really helpful. It's kind of a path that is coming all together. So I'm really grateful to everybody who has helped me and is currently helping me.
It's always nice to look back and thank our mentors. So this next set of questions is going to be very important for our listeners. And the first one is going to revolve around the veterinarian's perspective. Barbara, what is one piece of information the veterinarian should know about multimodal management of colic and paralytic ileus?
Yeah, I think, post-op ileus or ileus in general is a very, very hard condition to manage and to resolve. And we know that it significantly increases our mortality in our post-op colics. And so it's a very, very common and very hard condition to manage that unfortunately we haven't found a single drug or management strategy that works for sure. And so our management is always multimodal. And so I think in the context of needing a multimodal approach, this new technique could really be implemented as one of the strategies, one of the treatments. And so this could be something to add that might be very helpful for managing this very challenging condition that remains really challenging, although all the new ongoing research that kind of runs around it.
And Marta, on the other side of the relationship, what's one thing that clients should know?
Yes, I think colic can be very scary for owners. First of all, how the horse really behaves during a colic episode, it's pretty scary. And the idea of a major surgery and then all the complications that can arise after that, and would the horse go back in work or not? Those are all aspects that frighten the owners a lot. But I think there's been so much improvement in the surgical approach and in the medical approach for the management post-op, that I think there is a sort of idea that after colic surgery, horses are done with their performance. I don't think that is the case. Every case is different from the others, but the percentage of horses that return to full activity without any problem. It's getting better and better. So I just would tell the owners to give the horse a chance if there is an economic budget that can support that.
Yeah, really well said. It is a terrifying experience, for the first time anybody sees it, and it's really good to remember that in the clients. Super great to see both you guys, even if it's virtually today. As we wind down, we ask a little more of a fun question. So, Marta, while we have you, what's the oldest, and you're welcome to hold it up if you have it, oldest or most interesting item on your desk or in your desk drawer?
So I cannot hold it because it's I taped it to my computer, but it is so just on the line of what I was saying, that we always have a question that we try to answer and trying to expand our knowledge and realizing that it's limitless. When I first came in Cornell and I was assigned the desk, somebody before me left a tiny piece of paper with printed it a motto that I thought it really fit with my approach to veterinary medicine. And so I kept it for the past 13 and more years. And this says true knowledge exists in knowing that you know nothing. And it really sort of reflects what I thought even before getting in this route.
Amen. Do you know whose computer it was?
I don't know. It was on one of the research room. I had an idea, but I'm not sure, so I prefer not to mention at this moment. But yeah, I think it was one of the PhD or postdoc from Dr. Ducharme lab.
Very good. Well, maybe they're listening and they'll give you a shout.
Maybe.
Barbara, you know my children, and I'm looking over at my dining room table where there's one complete puzzle, one that's half done, and another one that just came out of the box. When you do puzzles, do you start with the border exterior or the middle internal pieces?
Yeah, I have to say, I find them quite hard, especially the one with the million tiny pieces. And so I always have to start from the exterior. I think it's my, my way to have a structure and kind of feeling like I'm getting somewhere. But truly, I think otherwise I couldn't complete one if I wasn't starting from the exterior where I know at least that what I'm looking for. So, yeah, but I don't do them very often, I have to say.
Have a full-blown career and a couple of young kids, so that and a husband, so you're showing your surgeon shoes. Sarah and I have this running tally that most of the time surgeons start with the border, and internists seem to start with more like a color or a theme or something in the middle. We get some hybrids too, but you're definitely showing your surgeon shoes.
I actually was over at my aunt's house this weekend, and her son does all these really cool, intricate Lego sets. And I was like, ooh, maybe that's a question for the future. If we have any Lego people, how do you put together your really intricate Lego sets? So
The instructions. Try not to lose the tiny pieces.
there's nothing worse than stepping on a Lego. Well, thank you so much, Barbara and Marta. I really appreciate you being here today, sharing your article with AJVR, and sharing your knowledge too with our listeners.
Thank you very much. It was quite a fun. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for having us.
And to our listeners, you can read Barbara and Marta's article on AJVR. I'm Sarah Wright with Lisa Fortier. Be on the lookout for next week's episode, and don't forget to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or whatever platform you listen to.